is an NBC News special report. Here's Lester Holt.
Good afternoon. We're coming on the air right now with a major update just out about a life-threatening hurricane about to hit Florida. Hurricane Helene, right now a powerful Category 3 storm, shaping up to be one of the biggest to ever hit the Gulf Coast. It's a monster storm, an astonishing 500 miles in diameter. Florida's Big Bend now in the bullseye. The storm surge you hear so much about, that's expected to be catastrophic. More than 20 feet of water expected to flood coastal areas. And get this, the winds pushing all that water are up to 125 miles an hour as we come on. To make matters worse, there are now even tornado warnings in the storm zone. I want to go right to Al Roker now for the latest tracking. Al.
Yeah, you know, Lester, here's the thing, 125 miles per hour. That's 5 miles per hour away from a Category 4 storm. This thing still has some runway to get through, so it could very well make Category 4 by the time it makes landfall. Moving northeast at 23 miles per hour, so it is picking up its forward motion. And as you mentioned, tornado watches from the Carolinas all the way down into central Florida. We've got some tornado warnings just south of Tampa, so we're going to be watching that very closely. Right now, we've got tropical storm warnings from Asheville all the way down to Key West, but hurricane warnings stretching right now from Albany, Georgia, just to the north, on into the Big Bend and parts of the Panhandle. Here's the system. We expect it to make landfall sometime tonight between 8 and 11 p.m. right now as a Category 3, but it could very well become a Category 4 storm. The hurricane force winds extend out 100 miles from the center of the storm. So this is a powerful system that's going to make its way. Look at this. It will still be predicted to be a Category 2 storm on Friday when it passes by Atlanta. Last time they were in a hurricane warning was 2018, and then it continues on up toward Nashville as a very intense low pressure system. But this thing is going to wreak a lot of havoc. So the storm surge that you were talking about, Lester, 10 to 20 feet from Apalachicola on just south of Cedar Key, the Big Bend area. Could travel about 9 miles inland along some of the rivers, and the winds are going to be very, very strong. Cedar Key could see gusts of 100 miles per hour, Tallahassee 110. Historic damage likely for Tallahassee. And then Atlanta, 50 mile per hour wind gusts, Knoxville 55. We're probably going to see airport delays and or closures. And with all of that, we're going to be looking at power outages from Tallahassee to Atlanta, but extending all the way to the coast, from widespread to scattered power outages. And, of course, the flash flood risk from Tallahassee to Asheville, life-threatening river and flash flooding, a major flood event likely across the Appalachians. In the Big Bend area, Florida Panhandle, upwards of 20 inches of rain. But we could be looking at up to a foot as you get to Atlanta, Nashville, Knoxville, and Memphis as well, Lester. So,
and again, the forward speed on this is
moving northeast 23 miles per hour. So you get those 125 mile per hour winds. You add to that motion, that forward motion, and that's what makes this storm surge so dangerous. And coming in at about anywhere between 8 and 11 o'clock, that's when we're going to start to see high tides from all along the coast there. So we're going to be watching this very closely. But that storm surge is where most deaths occur, and unfortunately, this is going to be at night. So that's going to make it even harder for people to deal with.
All right, Al Roker. Al, thanks very much. Tom Yamas is in Tallahassee, where it is starting to rain. The big impact, though, coming after nightfall. Tom, what are you seeing?
Lester, great to be with you right now. Let's start right where the concern is and where the danger is right now at this hour. Al showed us how big that hurricane is. It is a monster of a storm stretching all the way from Tallahassee all the way down to Fort Myers. There's already storm surge flooding in areas like Fort Myers, areas like the Tampa Bay, where people are seeing the rush of water just come in. This is the major concern. Where we are in the Big Bend area, the National Hurricane Center has been very blunt. They're saying that this storm surge could be anywhere from 15 to 20 feet. They say that is unsurvivable, not to play games with that. Because of that, several of those outer communities, the communities that are right on the water, have been evacuated. We were out at one of those earlier today as people were packing up their businesses. have evacuated. They're hunkering down. Here in Tallahassee, they are preparing for a storm. Many officials have said, like one they've never seen before, right? Sometimes Tallahassee gets hit either on the east side or the west side, but a direct hit has not happened with a hurricane of this magnitude. Just over my shoulder here, you can see some big, beautiful, they're called live oak trees, and that's one of the big concern right now, right? Because they give you treetop cover, they are beautiful, but when they come down, it can be incredibly dangerous as people are trying to rescue others or as the recovery effort gets underway. This, of course, is the capital of Florida. This is where Governor DeSantis lives. This is where the state of Florida is operated from. And again, they have never seen a storm quite like this. When you look behind my shoulder, it may look like it's very calm right now, and that's because it is. It has not started yet. This is quite literally the calm before the storm. But tonight, when this hurricane hits, it's even more dangerous because a nighttime hurricane, things can happen and you don't see them right away. But I've spoken to emergency officials in this area. They tell me that they have been pre-positioned in different parts of Tallahassee and along the coast to make sure that if anybody needs to be rescued, if it's safe for them to get out, they're going to go out there and rescue them. We also have to talk about the college community here, right? About a quarter of the population in Tallahassee are college kids. Some of them got out. Not everyone did. We've been told that the shelters have opened at Florida State University and Florida A&M, right now housing about 700 students in those shelters. Lester?
Yeah, likely a very different scene behind you tomorrow. All right, Tom Yamas, thank you. Perry, Florida is about an hour south of Tallahassee. Our Jesse Kirsch is there. Jesse?
Lester, a very blunt request from officials here tonight. They're telling people who have not heeded a mandatory evacuation request to write their name and their date of birth on their body in permanent markers so their bodies can be identified. That is what they're asking residents to prepare for here. You can see it is largely a ghost town here in Perry, but there are still cars on the road. We have still seen people on foot. And officials are so concerned about the conditions that we could be seeing here this evening. The sheriff tells me they have not even opened a shelter here. If people need to access to transportation, they are partnered with Uber. Officials are partnered with Uber to get people out. There are also buses that have been offered. They are trying to get people to shelters in other counties. The sheriff is that concerned about a shelter here caving in. We are going to potentially get the brunt of the winds, the powerful hurricane-force winds here in Taylor County, Florida. And if that happens, that would effectively be like a tornado. We're overhead here for over an hour. And it is that prolonged exposure to those powerful wind gusts which could weaken structures and create real concern for life because of the wind. But there's also the threat of that storm surge here, 10 to 20 feet possibly in the coastline. And the sheriff estimates that around 200 people have refused the request to leave their homes along the coastline here in Taylor County. Again, that is 10 to 20 people, 200 people roughly that could be in 10 to 20 feet of storm surge. What has been described as unsurvivable conditions. People that are among that group that officials are asking to put their name and their identifiable information on their body in case of the worst, which we could be seeing tomorrow. Lester?
All right, Jesse, thanks. And off to the right of Jesse, that picture showing how powerful these storm surges can be. Literally a wall of water being pushed along by those winds far out at sea. That concludes this NBC News special report. This, of course, is a developing story. We'll be covering it throughout the night on our streaming channel, NBC News Now. And I'll have the very latest, and we see you shortly here in the East on NBC Nightly News. For now, I'm Lester Holt in New York. Good day.